even if the intentions were to protect one another, wasn't a healthy way to have a relationship. "I feel them too," she whispered. Jackie wrapped her arms around herself and looked past him into the dark night. Her fear quickly diminished his need to ravish her. Fane pushed away from the window and closed the last couple of steps between them. He ran his hands up and down her arms, needing to feel her and wanting her to feel him. "Do you think any of them are just here out of curiosity?" she asked. "Maybe they just want to join our pack because the great Luna has chosen you to lead them, and they want a strong leader." The hope he heard in her voice made him want to reassure her, but Fane couldn't say any of that for certain.
"Maybe,"
he answered after a minute of thought.
"News of what has taken place has surely traveled throughout the supernatural world. Some will be curious."
He slid his hands around her and drew her into him. Jacqueline dropped her arms and then wrapped them around his torso until she had the fabric of his shirt fisted in her palms. "But if they were simply curious, they probably wouldn't be hiding out in the woods, would they?" she sighed. "Surely curiosity would dictate they simply knock on the door and say, 'What's up?'" Fane chuckled.
"It would make things easier if I knew who simply wanted to know the truth versus who wanted to seize power for their own."
She turned her head and laid it on his chest, then nuzzled her cheek against it. Fane felt his wolf hum in satisfaction upon receiving their mate's affection. It didn't matter if it had only been a minute since they'd touched, or a day. Both man and beast craved her. For a while they stood in silence, enjoying a moment to themselves. Fane pushed away thoughts of the wolves and focused only on his mate. She was so strong and had been his rock over the past months as he'd come to terms with his parents' deaths. Holding her tighter, he realized, not for the first time, what a blessing it was to have a mate bond. He was blessed to know that, should his mate die, he would not remain behind to mourn her. He wouldn't be left with a Jacqueline-sized hole in his heart because he would join her in taking her last breath. "It is a blessing and a curse," she said, responding to his thoughts. "Well, maybe only a curse if you have a child. While I would not want to live without you, I would equally not want to leave our son without parents, at least not until he is grown."
"I have no plans of dying anytime soon,"
Fane said, trying to lighten the mood.
"Do you?"
"Definitely not," Jacqueline huffed out a laugh. "It's going to be too much fun watching Jen fret over whether or not Titus is Hope's true mate." Alina Hope Petrovic was Drake and Bethany's newly arrived 5-day-old daughter. Titus had made quite the declaration just before the new pack member had been born, and Jen had been relentlessly grilling him for clarification on what his words had actually meant. It seemed like Jen had met her match in stubbornness. Anytime Jen brought the subject up, Titus simply smiled at her and went about his business.
"You're right. We need to stick around to watch how that plays out."
Jackie relaxed her arms, but Fane held her tighter, not ready to let go of his mate. He buried his face in her neck and breathed in her scent.
"Where is Slate?" he asked.
"Rachel has him, but don't go making plans in that male head of yours." She pulled back to look up at him. "Our group is headed this way." She wiggled one of her arms free and glanced at her watch. "Any minute now. Costin said he wanted to talk." Before Fane could question her about it further, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," Jacqueline called out, giving him a final squeeze and lifting up on her toes to press her lips to his neck with a quick kiss. The sensuous touch distracted him enough that she'd managed to slip out of his arms. She stood beside him, her hand in his, before Fane could steal a kiss from her lips. The door opened, and Decibel entered, followed by his mate, Jen, who appeared oddly subdued for such a festive night. Behind them came Costin and Sally. Fane didn't miss the way Costin maneuvered his mate so that he was in between her and Decibel as they walked past, and took a seat in one of the overstuffed chairs. Costin pulled Sally into his lap, and his gaze bounced from Fane and back to Decibel. It had been a while since he'd seen one of the males in their close-knit group act that territorial.
"This better be good," Peri said.
She and Lucian filed in next.
"This is the first New Year's Eve party I've ever been to, and I'm pretty sure we're supposed to be dropping a ball while counting down from 10. Although, I'm not sure what on earth a ball falling to the ground represents except clumsiness."
Lucian